for today, we'll be introducing the use of jQuery. So jQuery is a JavaScript library. jQuery greatly simplifies JavaScript programming. jQuery is easy to learn. What you should already know. So before start studying jQuery, you should have a basic knowledge of STEM, HTML, CSS, and the JavaScript, or later knowledge of JavaScript. So what's jQuery is about? So jQuery is a lightweight, write less, do more JavaScript library. The purpose of jQuery is to make it much easier to use JavaScript on your website. So jQuery takes a lot of common tasks that requires many lines of JavaScript code to accomplish and wrap them into methods that you can call with a single line of code. jQuery also simplifies a lot of complicated things from JavaScript like the Ajax calls and the DOM manipulation or document object management manipulation. So jQuery library contains the following features: HTML DOM manipulation, CSS, HTML events method, effects, animation, and Ajax and utilities. So the next one is jQuery syntax. The jQuery syntax is tailor-made for selecting HTML elements and performs an action on the elements. So the basic syntax is, so we have a dollar sign that defines jQuery, or sign denotes jQuery function. So the selector to select the elements, or query or find HTML elements. So the dot in the action is the separator. The action close and open parenthesis is to perform action on the selected elements. So for example, the dollar sign this, so the dollar sign this, that means that the current element that hides the action. So the next one, P, we all know that P is tag for paragraph. So in this case, we are selecting all paragraphs and we're going to hide all paragraph elements. So that's test. We all know that is for class. So this code now is will hide all element with class example test. So next one is numbers symbol test. Means that the ID selector. In that code, it means that hides the element with ID test. So the next one is the jQuery selectors. So the jQuery selectors allows you to select and manipulate HTML elements. jQuery selectors are used to find or select HTML elements based on their names, ID, classes, types, attributes, values of attributes, and much more. It's based on the existing CSS selectors, and in addition, and it has some own custom selectors. All selectors in jQuery starts with a dollar sign and parentheses. So dollar sign and the opening close on open on we have opening close selectors. So example. So the first example is this one, P. We can see the arrow. This is a tag selector. So we're referring to an HTML tag, so paragraph tag. And this one, So we did that here. That means we have class selector. And here we have number symbol, and that means we have an ID selector. jQuery events. What are events? All different visitors action that a web page can respond to our called events. And events represent the precise moment when something happen. For example, when we move a mouse over an element, so that's an event. When you select a radio button, that is an event. When you click on an element, so event yaman na siya. The term fired in use is used to event example. The key press is fired the moment you place a key. So here are some jQuery events. So we have click, double click, mouse enter, mouse leave, and keyboard events, key press, key down, and key up. So for form event, submit, change, focus, blur. So document or window events, load, resize, scroll, and unload. And also ready. So nakabutang na. So jQuery syntax for events method. For example, the selector dot click here is now our event. Then open function, and now we place the code here. The curly brace is open here and close here, and parentheses. And this is the syntax of our parenthesis. So document. So commonly used jQuery event methods or window.ready. Document.ready methods allows us to execute a function when the document is fully loaded. Or if you use the window object, the object when the window is already loaded. Commonly used jQuery events method. So here we have a click. So the click method attaches an event handler function to an HTML elements. So the function is executed when the user clicks on the HTML elements. So the following example says when we click an event, it fires on the P elements, and if we click on a P, an event, it should hide the Korean element or paragraph or P element. So for example, we have dollar sign P. So let's say paragraph that click. So when we click a paragraph, that function that this is referred to the current paragraph. So whatever paragraph we had, just click and it will hide the function. The the double click. The double click method attaches an event handler function to an HTML element. The function executed when the user double clicks on the HTML elements. So similar to the code while ago, pero kini double click lang siya. So what this will do is kung mag double click ta sa paragraph is ma-hide siya in this particular paragraph. So the next one is mouse enter. So mouse enter method attaches an event handler function to an HTML element. So the function is executed when the mouse pointer enters the HTML elements. The following example says when we click an event, fires on a P element, it hides the Korean P element. Or when their mouse is over, it will hide. So it's the number sign P1, the mouse enter function alert. So that means in that particular element will alert. So mouse leave. The mouse leave method attaches an event handler function to an HTML element. The function is executed when the mouse pointer leaves the HTML element. So kung intay mo ang atong mouse nag-enter diri, kung mo leave siya, mo leave is going to murag na siya something happen. Yung color baron or naa siya mo alert nga by you now leave P1. So kung mo enter ta diri sa kini nga color and then kining example nga color sa atong mouse mo ano walang mouse. Pag mo leave ta diri, it means na siya mo tatak nga alert by you are now you now leave P1. So the next one is mouse down. The mouse down method attaches an event handler function to an HTML element. So the function is executed when the left, middle, or right mouse button is pressed down, while the mouse is over the HTML element. So mouse down. So this our code. That means that if we click on the mouse or press the mouse down, the button down, so whatever button is that, and we are all over this element with an ID of P1, that was the number sign, and this text box will appear on the mouse down or alert or P1. So the mouse up method attaches an event handler function to an HTML element. So the function is executed when the left, middle, or right mouse button is released, while the mouse is over the HTML element. So we have an idea of the paragraph, an idea of when you press the mouse, when we release the mouse up, then it will alert the mouse up over the P1. So the next one is hover. The method, it takes two functions and it is a combination of the mouse enter and the mouse leave method. So the first function is executed when the mouse enters the HTML elements, and the second function is executed when the mouse leaves the HTML element. So for example, the combination of the two previous methods na mouse enter or mouse leave. So natay P1. So instead nga mouse enter or mouse leave, so let's go into hover. So so if we hover this P1 as this events, so the function elect niya alert siya sa mana siya yung alert. So the function then comma niya. Ang second function is kung mulib jud ka is mutatat din siya ang alert na you now leave P1. So the next one is focus. The focus method attaches an event handler function to an HTML element. So the function is executed when the field when the form field gets focus or the mouse or the cursor in is actually on that particular field. So here particular example. So this function .css background color. So kini kung input na to ni sa HTML tag and its focus and kung aton siyang ihawa is yung background color is kung mo focus ta dito sa yang atong gi-input is ang yang background color is kini CCC white na siya yellow. Sorry. So the next one is blur. So the blur method attaches an event handler function to an HTML form field. So the function executed when the form field loses focus. So example, nag-input ta og something kuan niya to input then mo leave ta so it will so inaani din siya nakatatak nga inaani din siya ang color nga mogawas kung mo leave ta sa atong gi-input. So the on method so on method so the on method attaches one or more event handlers for the selecting elements to attach a click events to p elements to a p elements. Huh? So we have example a p element on click. So this is the event. So this is the event. So now we now not a function and this what in click is ma-hide siya. So commonly jQuery events. And after isa. So with a jQuery, you can hide and show HTML elements. Ano siyang effects with the hide and show methods. So ang kini ang yang ID is mag-hide siya kung ato na siyang i-click mo function na siya sa yang paragraph na mo hide siya kung i-click na to ang paragraph is kini siya mo hide siya tanan. Kung atong i-show ang paragraph is if kung atong i-click ang kining naka-hide nga paragraph is mo show siya. So hide and show syntax. We can have also the syntax. So $sign selector hide speed callback. So we will discuss it later. With speed and callback. So the speed parameter specifies the speed of the hiding and showing that can take the following values: slow ba siya, or fast, or millisecond, ano siya, like kung 1,000 millisecond, fast. So the optional callback parameters is the function to be executed after the field, after the hide and show method completes. So you will learn more about callback function later. So the following example demonstrate the speed parameters with a hide with the hide methods with hide effects. So button click function. So if we hide the button is with if we hide the paragraph is mo na siya'y counting murag 1000 is equivalent to 1 second, or it will take 1 second to hide that paragraph gradually. So we also have the toggle, jQuery toggle. So you can also toggle between hiding and showing an element with the toggle method. So shown elements are hidden and hidden elements are shown. So mura siya gibaylo-baylo ano? Mura siya kung imong i-click ang toggle button is hide siya, and when you click na pud ka is show siya. Shown elements are hidden and hidden elements are shown. That's why it's called toggle effect. So button click function P toggle. If you click the show buttons, and it will click and it will hide the P button. If we click na po nato ang P nga button is ma-show na po siya. So that's all for today. Thank you.
So, hello everyone, my name is Rusty Banag and I'm gonna reporting about Ajax asynchronous and synchronous PHP. So first, what is Ajax? So Ajax though guys is not a programming language but a technique that incorporates a client-side script. So Ajax, which stands for asynchronous JavaScript and XML, is a technique that allows the web page to be updated asynchronously or synchronously. So, so further, its name is somewhat misleading. While an Ajax application might use XML to send data, it could also use to plain text or JSON text. So this is how Ajax works. So first, on browser, an event occurs, create a XML HTTP request objects, send HTTP requests to the internet, and the internet send it to the server, and the server process HTTP requests, create a response, and send data back to the browser, and the browser will process the return data using JavaScript, update the page content. So what is asynchronous PHP? So if the two processes are running asynchronously, it means second process will not wait for a second process result and will be executed. So in which the script stops and wait for the server to send back asynchronously, in which the server allow the page to continue to be proceed and handle the reply if and when it arrives. So one basic example guro aning asynchronous is example sa may channel example nag Facebook ta sa browser unya Facebook browser unya na nag-chat sa tuwa, so ato silang replyan. So example, hi, mag-reply ka ng hello. So, when sending a message, which is data, pag send mo, di ba dili naman mag-reload ang entire browser kung mag-send ka data. So, mo na siya ang example siguro sa asynchronous PHP na kung mag-send kag data, di na siya mag-reload. O ang isa is ang synchronous PHP. If the two processes are running, say, synchronously, it means that second process will wait until or unless the first process is complete. So, synchronously, in which the script stops and waits for the server to send back a reply before continuing. So, obviously, this kind of delay can negatively affect a web visitor experience because you cannot interact with any other page's elements until the response is received and the page is updated. So, example lang siguro na mahatag mo basic example. Nagreklamo mo, order mo sa Shopee, contact mo silang CS, hatag mo ticket nga. Example, wala na receiving order, fill up mo form, name, o description sa inyong reklamo, then inyong gisend. So, wala mo yung nadawat na reply. Di man mo diretso makadawat og reply, di ba, kung magkuhan mo, mag-email. So, maghulat pa ka nga mag-reply to ang CS mo ha, ay na po din ka maka message sa iya balik. So, in short, asynchronous PHP can multitask while synchronous PHP is dili siya ka multitask. So, kailangan pa ka maghulat, kaya pa ka dayon maka-interact sa iyong reply. So, nako ipakita nga video sa YouTube about synchronous.
This started. So synchronous versus asynchronous clients by example. So notice that I added the word clients here, and this is very important. This synchronicity and asynchronicity is a property. Get it started. So synchronous versus asynchronous clients by example. So notice that I added the word clients here, and this is very important. This synchronicity and asynchronicity is a property of the client, the front end. The front end is asynchronous or asynchronous, right? The server can be asynchronous or synchronous as well, but we're going to discuss that in another video, hopefully. But let's get to it, right? So that's the first thing. So what is synchronous, or what is the difference between synchronous and asynchronous client? So pretty sure you heard about that, but in a nutshell, a synchronous client is if I make a function call, or if I made a method call, whether this is a network call or is it local call or a server fetching something, if I decided as a client, as a front end, to wait until I got a result back from the server or from that method or from that function, then I am acting as a synchronous client. So it's like, you know what? It's like I'm gonna go ahead and call this function, and I'm just gonna sit down here as a function or as another method. I'm just gonna sit down here. I'm gonna wait for you. I'm not gonna do anything. I can't really move to the rest of the code below me until I receive an answer from this function. So that's in a nutshell a synchronous client, right? And the other end, asynchronous client is when you make a request and you say, you know what, this is your request, and whenever you're ready, whether you failed or success, just call this function. I'm going to give you a handle. I'm going to give you a callback, quote unquote callback. And then just call this function when you're ready. Let me go do my thing. I have a lot of things to do. I have a lot of code to execute, right? So I'm going to go ahead and execute it. But I'm going to call you first and then just go ahead and execute it. I don't wait. So asynchronous never waits, and asynchronous doesn't wait for a call to come back in order to execute the rest of the code. So that's just in a nutshell. So there are advantages and disadvantages of both, and we're going to explain that in the next minute or so. All right, so let's start with a synchronous example. So synchronous example, what I'm going to take and as an example here is our friends here in YouTube, right? So I'm going to upload a video. So that's the concept here. So I'm going to use YouTube as it's a very good example here. So my little app here, web application or desktop application, uploads a video. That's what it does, right? So you specify the title, you specify the description. I forgot to specify the actual video, right? So let's assume there is like a browse button where you actually pick your MP4 video, whatever, and then you hit upload. So that's your application. And let's say this is written in a synchronous way. So how will it behave? If it's written in a synchronous way, this is what you get, right? You will hit upload and that's it. Your screen will be blocked. You cannot do anything. You cannot just change the title. Sorry, you just say upload. You have to wait. You can't do anything. My thread, my process is busy doing your thing. And what is it doing? It's calling a function and it's waiting, right? And so you can see uploading and everything is grayed out. It means it's disabled essentially, right? So let's take a look at the code here. So that's the call, and that's the method I called when I hit upload button. So upload, I'm gonna print uploading. This is also synchronous call, and then you go and upload video, and guess what? I'm gonna get stuck here. I'm just gonna wait and wait and wait and wait and wait, and that thread that get executing that process is gonna freeze the UI. So it's a very bad user experience, as you can see, right? And the users can't do anything. It's just like gonna wait. Once it's done, it's gonna say, okay, I'm done, success, and it's gonna tell you whether that maybe it returns the video URL or whatever, right? So that's a synchronous example in a nutshell. How it makes sense, right? So it's a very as you can see, benefits of this is, let's start with the benefits. Benefits, very easy code. I can read it. Anyone can read it, right? Just like you go from up to bottom, print, uploading, upload, success, you're done, right? It's very simple to read. Disadvantages, you're blocking the UI. Users, it's not a very good user experience. Maybe you can get away with this 10 years ago, 5 years ago, right? When the web is just like you don't mind anything. It's just I'm grateful that I have internet. Right? I'm grateful that I have an app. I built an app, right? But in these modern days, like things are not very easy going, right? So you get grilled for any app here, right? You have to be really good. Critiques, users are very good critiques now. These users of the recent era, right? So yeah, let's move on. Asynchronous example. So what is an asynchronous example? So let's take the same application. Let's say I hire someone really good, an asynchronous author and programmer, that he says, so you know what? I don't want my I want my uploading. I want to re-upwrite this application that does upload my video, but I want it to do it in an asynchronous fashion. Let's see what happens here. So I'm gonna go ahead and upload, and guess what? Guess what? The moment I hit upload, what is that? I got a URL back. Wow, that was fast. But guess what? My upload is not done yet. It's still uploading, but I got a URL back, and that tells me that, hey, you know what, you're ready. Go ahead and you're unblocked. You can go ahead and change your title. You can go ahead and change your description. This works. And you can see, if you work with YouTube or other uploading platform, this is the user experience today. You can upload a video and you can still change the title, add tags, and do fancy stuff, right? Because of the asynchronous fashion, because of the asynchronous power that this user experience has, right? So that's basically the difference between asynchronous and synchronous. Let's take a look at the code. Oh, suddenly now the code doesn't look so simple, does it? Right? So there's a function called upload. There is another function called upload success. Wow. Okay. I would guess if I click upload, I'm gonna get a print uploading, and then upload video will basically take a function as an input, which is basically the callback function. Over JavaScript, this is much better now. It's much easier using the promises, or even await and async. Async await is which acts like an asynchronous, but it's also acts like synchronous, which is really pretty cool design in the latest ACMS 6. So upload success will be called only when upload video finish, right? So this is a very basic example. So it's gonna be more complex than that. So there will be so you know what? I should have returned the v here, and actually I should have printed the v, which is actually the URL. So upload video in this case, what it does is immediately writes a quick record. It says, hey, no, give me an ID for this video. I just want an ID. Don't upload the video yet. Just give me an ID. It will return the ID, which is the URL, and then you can just immediately print it. So it's still a synchronous call. It's a synchronous call, but it's a very quick synchronous call, right? It's just like the server is still synchronous if you think about it, right? But it just immediately gave me the result, and then v is basically the video URL here, which we saw in the previous this, right? And then, but if you think about it, upload video is still doing some churning in the backend. It's just there's a thread executing and doing its thing, right? But however the UI is unblocked. So this is in a nutshell. This is the difference between synchronous and asynchronous. Guys, hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, put them in the comments below. And what do you think? What is your favorite mode of programming? Do you like synchronous programming? Do you like asynchronous programming? Nothing wrong with both, right? There's disadvantage and disadvantage for both, right? So advantage.
So that's all, guys. Thank you for listening. Hello, everyone. Introduction to PHP. So, legit be kagulada. So, what is PHP? PHP stands for Hypertext Preprocessor. PHP is a scripting language used to develop static and dynamic web page and web applications. So, PHP is an interpreted language, hence it doesn't need a compiler like other kanya need pa jud siyang compiler. To run and execute PHP code, we need a web server on which PHP must be installed. PHP is a server-side scripting language, which means that PHP is executed on the server and the result is sent to the browser in plain HTML. PHP is an open source and it's free. So, PHP is an open source and free, hence, you can freely download, install, and start developing using it. Ma-search ninyo sa Google ang installer sa PHP. Free lang siya. So, PHP has a very simple and easy to understand syntax. Wow. Dali na daw siya, guys. Hence, the learning curve is smaller as compared to other scripting language like GSP, ASP, and etc. PHP is a cross-platform, hence you can easily develop and deploy your PHP code project to almost all the major operating systems like Windows, Linux, Mac, and etc. All the popular web hosting service support PHP. Also, the web hosting plans for PHP are generally among among and the cheapest plans because its popularity. So with PHP, you can create static dynamic web page, perform like handling operations, send email, access and modify browser cookies, and almost everything else you might want to implement in your web project. PHP is built-in support for MySQL, which is one of the most widely used database management systems. So, this is the example of the PHP code. So, napunta example diri sa one. Tara. So, text, web system subject, echo, I love, tapos gitawag din niya si text. So, kung ato siyang i-run, online compiler lang atong kuan kay wala pa koy install ay wala koy compiler sa PHP kay wala koy load. So, ano siya? I love web system subject. So, let's proceed. Na siya, example, echo. So, mo ni siya ang kuan example. So, PHP code is executed and the result in the plain HTML is sent to the browser. So, PHP code file of morning plain HTML code. Kaya ramin sila. I did it. Muna siya ang plain HTML code o mag-send din siya sa browser over HTTP. So, PHP syntax. All the PHP code in the PHP script should be enclosed with ano niya. So, itawagan niya. Ana, tapos question mark, PHP, and ana, tapos question mark na pod, tapos ana. So, itawagan niya. Net lang. Ay, okay. Greater than, less than. Ay, greater than, less than din eh. So apart from standard, you can also use the short open tags. So wala na ang PHP. Ana lang. Ana, question mark. Tapos wala na ning PHP. Close na po dayon. Short and open tags. On other HTML script tags, like we do for adding script code in HTML document. So, mo na yung one. Script language equals PHP script dayon. Okay? Sabta na guys. So, every expression in PHP ends with semicolon. So, para sa gyapon sa Java, semicolon mo gyapon. Commenting PHP code. Both single line and multi-line comments are supported in PHP. For single line comment, you can either use number sign or two ka hiwi nga linya before the comment line. For example, so mo ni siya ang comment. This is also single line comment. Another line comment. Single line comment lang siya tanan. Wala siya double line ko. Single line. Ay, nada gyapon dito. Kani mga single line ang number or hashtag. Kani single line. Para sa gyapon siya sa Java. So, multi-line comment. So, line nga iwi. Tapos, kani dayon asterisk. Tapos sa sunod din nga line. Asterisk. Tapos line nga hiwi. So, mo nang multi-line comment. PHP is a case sensitive, which means that a variable tiger is not same as okay, lahi sila kung small or big letter. Both of these represent two different variables here, but all the predefined keywords and function like if, else, echo, etc. are case insensitive. So kani sila okay ra mga balag dako-dako kay insensitive man sila. So let's proceed. PHP syntax. PHP uses curly braces to define a code of block. So mo ni siya. So if magamit tag if kani ra gyapon curly braces to open and close braces to find a code of block. So next, in PHP, variable is declared using dollar sign, oh, followed by the variable name. So ana dollar sign kadaan kung magkuan kag variable ay kung mag-declare ka og variable, so variable name pwede ra na sa unsa equals value. So creating a variable, example below, we have create different types of variables. So ana string, I am string. So ana kadaan kay mag-declare mo kay variables diri na pod dollar sign na pod ka int equals for na float dollar sign. Okay, basta kung mag-declare tag variable magamit tag dollar sign. So variable name in PHP are case sensitive, which mean dollar sign love is not same as dollar sign big letter love. So kani siya nag-declare siya og variable nga dollar sign car jaguar i-paste. So gi-echo niya my favorite car is jaguar i-paste. So dire nag-echo pud siya ay man to og I love dollar nga big letter car. So since small man siya diri, small letter, so nag-give siya error. So basic print sentence in PHP. So echo I am a sentence. So manang basic. So printing a multiple strings using comma. So this is a broken sentence. So space is space. So printing a multiple line text string. So this is an example of multi-line sentence. Na siya sa ubos. Area po na sila. Print display ra gyapon. Printing a string variable. So mo ni I have a string variable. Kitawag din niya si is ang variable. So printing a string variable with some text. So weird, stupid. Ikaw ay weird. So ang magawa sa ani is I am stupid. I am stupid. So escaping special characters. So ang escape is hello, this is a beautiful nani siya may escape duha ka kan na isulod nimo siya. So PHP data type specially specify the different types of data that are supported in PHP language. There are total 8 data types support in PHP, which are categorized into three main types. They are the scalar types, boolean, integer, floating, and string. Compound types are array and object. Special types are resources and null. So this is the example. So money, boolean, true false, integer, float, o ang string. So money siya ang example. String is there one? Hello? Is there what is your roll number? It's 3. by 4. So, ano eh, star 1, tawag niya si star 1 which is hello. So, una ni ang output. So, what is your roll number? So, gitawag niya si star 2. Kabantay mo guys na space tungod aning echo ngani tungod aning br new line. So, my roll number is tawag din niya si 4. Okay guys, that's all and thank you so much for listening.